Okay, so we're talking about mountaineering gear, ultralight, 2023, basically everything that I'm going to be using in my kit. So I'm going to start at the top and we're going to start with helmets. So you're going to have to understand that this list of gear is gear that isn't for everybody. This gear gets replaced more often, it has a shorter life expectancy, and the trade-off is that you can move faster in the mountains and arguably be a lot safer. This Ultralight Mountaineering helmet weighs 6.4 ounces. And so I don't get any neck strain when I'm using this. I can be in this helmet for days without any problems. You just got to take care of it a little bit better. It does have, basically a foam surround around the head, and then it has this curve composite, which they've tested. It's supposedly just as strong as their other Ultralight option. This is the Ultralight Light. Then they have the green and black Ultralight helmet. So let's talk about jackets real quick. So when I first started my channel, I did a video called like Greatest Soft Shell Ever Made or something like that, and I still haven't changed my mind. I've used hundreds of soft shells since that video, and I'm still picking the Rab Borealis every time. This guy right here, this is the Rab Borealis. So the Rab Borealis is Rab's lightest soft shell. It weighs 10.5 ounces. I'm 6 foot, about 170. This is a size small. I like the athletic fit. I don't want my jacket getting in the way of my harness and stuff. I can see my gear. This jacket is perfect for staying on the move. I would not sit still in this jacket. This is for single day climbs or decently warm overnights. This list is not going to cover my overnight kit. This is going to be single day pursuits, super fast lightweight missions, single day pushes of big climbs where you need to move fast. Rab Borealis, best soft shell I've ever used. It's not the lightest lightweight, but it is, in my opinion, the best. So the Rab K-On is a down jacket. It comes in at 8 ounces. It is the perfect ultra running jacket, the perfect on the move down jacket that you can wear in the alpine while you're moving. It doesn't have down under the arms, and so it vents really well. Fits pretty close to the body, just like this jacket. It's one of the best downs that I've had for moving. It's also, people like to ask me why I don't carry a fleece, and it's because if I'm carrying a heavier down than the K-On, and I would consider carrying a fleece, I would instead just opt for the K-On. It's typically lighter than the fleece. It's more versatile along with being warmer. Alright, hard shell jackets or waterproof jackets, I try to keep them light, but I also want them to function. So this is the Rab Zenith, and this has Pack-Lite Gore-Tex. This is a lightweight, proper hard shell jacket. Now there's a lot of companies offering soft shell waterproofs now. Rab does it with the Kinetic Alpine. I have several of those. Great jacket. If you're in the Alpine and it's nuking, you're going to want a proper hard shell. I don't like to carry a heavier hard shell than this because then it just becomes a sweat box. So this is really my go-to when I know it's going to rain. If I don't think it's going to rain and I still want to pack a hard shell or a waterproof, I'll opt for something different. The Rab Zenith weighs 11.6 ounces. This is the Ultimate Direction Ultra Jacket. This is also waterproof, but it's 6.5 ounces, so it's almost half the weight. Still waterproof, and so this is what I go for most of the time. It's more packable for single day pursuits where I likely may not even pull this out. I'm going to go for this. And to be fair, I've worn this in downpours when downpours have come that were not forecasted, and I didn't wet through. So this is still a really good option. I just wouldn't want to be up above ridges and towards the peaks of big mountains with this in a torrential downpour. I think eventually it's going to wet out. Less wind resistance, so it's not a true mountaineering jacket. This is more for running, hiking, backpacking, things like that. But we're talking ultralight, so this is a good option. So we can touch on pants a little bit. I wear the Rab Torque pants. They're a good lightweight option. They have crampon patches down by the ankle and things like that. I've had these pants for about 5 years and I'm still wearing them. My one complaint is the elastic draw at the waist. I just wish they would have belt loops. This is a failure point. These ones haven't failed, but I've had other Rab pants that have failed. When it gets colder, I go to the Rab Torque VR pants. So similar pant to this. They do have belt loops. They're insulated. They're a little bit warmer, fleece lined. I also have the Kinetic Alpine pants if I know it's going to be raining or if we're going to be going through a lot of wet vegetation, then I might opt for those. Those are super light, so decent pants. Okay, now we're in the crampon category, and this is kind of a tough category for actual alpine climbing. I'm not talking about hill walking or mountaineering. We're talking about actually needing steel crampons, using your front points, getting into the ice. And so being in the ultralight category, it's kind of tough. The Ultralight Beast Light is a good middle ground crampon that utilizes steel front points. So these are filthy because I beat the heck out of them. If you guys want a review on these, I will do one. Let me know in the comments. So this is the Ultralight Beast Light crampon. So there will never be a replacement for steel crampons, just in terms of durability. However, I trashed these on purpose. I walked on rocks, which you shouldn't do with an aluminum crampon. You can see the front point. You can opt for a monopoint with these guys if you prefer. Fully automatic crampon. Super aggressive front points here. I have been on ice with these and I felt totally comfortable. These weigh in at 1.4 ounces, so if you took a Petzl steel crampon, you're talking around 2 pounds. So weight savings on the feet are super important. I think weight savings on the feet and weight savings on the head are very important. I love these crampons. I trashed them just to do a thorough test, and I will use them most of the time. But if I'm going to be on rock a lot, I'll probably opt for a steel-bodied crampon. For boots, I just did a versus video of the La Sportiva and the Scarpa 1.5 boot, and this is going to be my main boot for the year. This is the Scarpa Phantom Tech. For a pair, 3.2 pounds, that's less than a single boot, so these are warmer, arguably more comfortable, and so yeah, this is definitely the boot of choice for 2023. If you want to see the La Sportiva competitor, go check out my video of the G5 Evo versus the Scarpa Phantom Tech. Both really good boots. So I want to talk about rope, and this is the Ultralight wrap line, and I've got 3. These are controversial, kind of, in the mountaineering community. I don't think this should be your only rope. So I bought a 70, I cut it in half, and so one of my partners would carry half of it. For 35 meters of this rope, it's 2.3 pounds. So each of us carries basically a 2-pound rope, and that will give us 70 meters of rope, which is awesome, especially for difficult crevasse rescue, things like that. Now, I also have a 60, so I haven't cut that. And I also have other ropes. If I'm expecting to take a whip into a crevasse or something like that, I wouldn't recommend using this rope. There's less stretch on these ropes, and that's one of the common flaws with this. But they are extremely thin, they are extremely light, and one of the general ideas behind this is a lot of people don't carry ropes these days, and so potentially if you have something this light, you'll have something. And so it's hard not to just throw this in your pack when it weighs almost nothing. So that's kind of my opinion on it. Just bring a rope, you never know. I've been in a crevasse, and so I kind of speak with some experience at least. Be careful, rope up. This rope would suck to fall on. I do use the Ultralight over the other options on the market because these are technically rated a little bit stronger. So they are also slightly heavier. Can do a more in-depth review on that too if you want to see it. The Ultralight Prisma Guide harness weighs in at 5 ounces, and there's a couple harnesses like this on the market. You might be interested in trying the Blue Ice. I already did that for you. Please don't do that to yourself. That thing falls apart within 1 or 2 uses. It's terrible. This thing has so far been completely bomber. One huge pro to this over the Petzl. Petzl has a harness like this too. I have one over there. The gear loops are actually gear loops. They're not just pieces of cloth hanging off. These actually retain their shape. So it's extremely easy to clip gear into it, whereas the other cloth loop will just be hanging flat. And so it's hard to clip your carabiner of gear into that, especially if it's cold and you have gloves on. So this is definitely the harness to get if you want an ultralight harness. This thing is great, completely bomber. I have a ton of climbs in it, and I have zero interest in replacing it yet. This thing still looks brand new, so this will be my harness in 2023. Okay, so for screws, last year, the end of last year, just switched to these blue ice screws, and I have a couple different kinds. This is the Arrow, which is an aluminum screw. I also have their other screw that has the steel tips on it. There's pros and cons to both. This is going to be lighter. The other screw is only 2 ounces. This one's lighter than that, so it's really not heavy. The pros to the steel screw is they will come out of the ice easier, especially once the sun's been on it. Your screws, when aluminum, can bake in to the ice, and it's a lot more difficult to take the screws out. It depends on how long you're going to have the screws in. There's pros and cons. A lot of people don't like aluminum screws at all. They are harder to sharpen. So like I said, you know, pros and cons. You are going to be replacing these more often. These are going to get a lot of use in 2023, so I'm pretty excited. And yeah, I'm sure we'll do a future review a few months into the year after we've used a lot of our kit, but pretty excited about these guys. So I'll touch on axes, and I don't really go into the ultralight category too much on axes because I typically use tools. I really like these. These are the Rage. They're offered from Ultralight, and you know, you could also go with a Petzl Quark if you wanted a semi-aggressive tool like this. I have more aggressive as well. I'll show you in a minute. I love these tools. They are very compact. They're easy to swing. I've used the Quarks. My buddy has Quarks. In my opinion, they're just clunky. That's my opinion. I'm used to these. The Quarks have a huge following. I'm not discounting them at all. These are what I'm used to. I have a ton of use in these guys. And yeah, I really like them. I'll use these until I lose them. They're not necessarily super light. These weigh just under 1.3 pounds. So you don't necessarily want light when you're climbing ice. You want weight up top that will swing and puncture ice really, really well just by flicking your wrist. These are really good at that. So these are also pretty good walking axes too. They walk a lot easier than a more aggressive tool. I'll explain that here in a minute. So this is the Ultralight Rage, which I also use when necessary. This also weighs in at just under 1.3 pounds. The other ones are much nicer to walk in, and the reason why is because a lot of times this will, if you're using it to walk like an axe, which I don't use, but if you're using the spike down here to walk, it can roll. And so a lot of times I'll walk like this, pushing this into the ground. But that's not really what they're for. I rarely pull these out because the riots are almost perfect for everything around here. These are typically overkill. People will say the same thing about the Quark. You can do the North Face of Eiger with a Quark or a Riot. If you wanted a straight shaft, ultralight, touring axe maybe, Ultralight offers one. It's the Attila Light. The Attila Light weighs 0.9 pounds. So at least that's what it says on their website. It's almost hard for me to believe because the Petzl Ride weighs 8.5 ounces. So almost half the weight. You know, that's one category where I'm not super confident in an 8-ounce axe. I don't have either. I have a Climbing Technology axe, which is T-rated, so I can put this in rock if I need to and twist. It's not going to break. This is light, but it gives me a little bit more security if I need it. So I really like this axe. We'll see. I will get either the Ultralight or the Petzl, or maybe both, just compare them, since we do have a touring setup. So I'm going to touch on carabiners. This is the Ultralight Mission, which has a solid gate. So this is the lightest solid gate carabiner on the market. These weigh 1 ounce apiece. This is the wire gate version, and these are also the lightest on the market. I typically opt for the solid gate The reason why, because in there, it's probably not going to focus, there's no hook securing the solid gate, and on the wire gate there's a hook. The problem is with gloves, it's difficult for me to reach down and rip this wire gate off my harness, because a lot of times that clip will hook. There's ways to mitigate it. It's muscle memory. You just have to push into your body and take it off and pull out. It never really affects me, but I do prefer the solid gate for that reason. It's a super minor inconvenience. I don't think I'll notice the difference in these two weight-wise. Plenty strong. These things are beasts. Yeah, you're going to replace them more than a steel carabiner, but that's part of being lighter and faster. This is the Ultralight Bullet HMS screw gate carabiner. Nothing fancy. This is a carabiner that I would use for my microtractions or my T-blocks. I also use the Spock sometimes, which is Ultralight's progress capturing device. Have both. Really good carabiner, super light. It's probably not the lightest on the market, but it may be. Ultralight is really diving into the ultralight category, which is awesome because they were quiet for a little while. So I'm still carrying the MSR reactor stove. It's just a must. It is the best stove in the mountains for boiling water. If I know there's going to be enough to filter, I probably wouldn't carry it. I'd probably carry a super tiny little stove. Touch on packs. This is the Loa Alpine Uprise 30. This is a super minimal ultralight pack. It's 2 pounds. Has the gear necessary to stow axes, tools, crampons on the outside of your pack if you need to, compression straps for pickets, snowshoes, poles, etc. Very minimal. This was designed by a bunch of alpinists. They got together, basically picked the necessary features for an alpine pack, got rid of all the fuss. The one thing I wish they added was a back zip. They do make packs that have that. It's basically the identical pack to this, plus a zipper on the back. So I love this pack. It's super light, super durable, very durable fabric. But sometimes I'm going to go a little bit lighter, and that would be the Ultimate Direction All Mountain Pack, which I've done a review on this. This pack weighs in at 1.4 pounds, so it's a lot lighter. Has more of a running vest suspension system. Super awesome pack though for single day lightweight pursuits. Love it. So that's about it for the ultralight stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and please be safe in the mountains.